Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick and cousin Jeff. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We'll read your 5-star review on the air. We have patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to help support the podcast, along with our TeePublic link over at ihatecritics.net or search CriticsPod at TeePublic. Sean, where can people read your reviews?
You can find my review archive, the reviews from like 2000 to 2019 at seanatthemovies.blogspot.com, and of course geeks.media and horror.media for my modern stuff.
And Jeff, where can people find your art?
All my links and some of my artwork is at jefflassiter.com. And yes, to the person who, if they are listening, reached out, I'm going to be updating the website pretty soon.
Awesome.
But go to my links. That's all that matters.
And we will have those links in our show notes as well. All right. You guys did all the Oscar talk last week, so let's jump straight into our new movies. We'll start with Women Talking.
Women Talking from director Sarah Polley. Stars Jessie Buckley alongside a series, just a tremendous cast of women who are in a community where it's vaguely referred to, but not really stated that it's a what do you call it, Jeff? What kind
Mennonite?
of Mennonite community? And essentially, these women have been sexually assaulted on a repeated basis for a number of years, and they've been told that this is an act of demons. They've been told that they're delusional, but finally they've actually captured recently 2 young men who committed a sexual assault on one of them, and they've decided to hold a meeting. They've elected several women to have a conversation about whether or not they should leave the community, whether or not they should stay in the community, or whether or not they should stay and fight the men in this community. And that is the conversation that unfolds over the period of this story. And it's a powerful series of conversations that rise and fall with various different ideas about how they should deal with this and how each of these women has been affected by this and by the choice they're about to make. And it's an incredibly powerful story. And then you come to realize this movie is set not in the 1800s, but in 2010, and based on a true story. And that's sort of it's not a shocker. It's not like a twist. It's just something that you come to realize. And it's a realization that adds just an underscore to how timely and true this film is, because it really is a movie about women trying to assert themselves and constantly having been lied to and mistreated by men, and having their rights taken from them by men, and finally standing up and saying no more. And that could not possibly be more relevant than it is right now.
Jeff?
I had no idea it was supposed to be a secret that these were modern times. Simply based on, at the very beginning, they have the buggies that are going into town, taking the men to town, that have the little slow-moving vehicle signal on it. I had no idea that this was supposed to be a revelation.
I don't know if it was necessarily. I mean, it was a revelation to me because, again, when that's not in the trailers or in the prep. When you go into it, you're not prepped to know that unless you've read about the movie.
Okay. This was incredible. I was kind of like, okay, this looks kind of boring, I'll be honest with you. But then I found out it was Sarah Polley, who is just so great. I listened to her talk about it on Mark Maron's podcast and really couldn't wait to see it. I know you talked about it before, Sean. I was just so excited to go see it. Not very many people in my screening, but everybody was talking about it when they left. What would you do? What would you do? The fact that the cast of this movie is just absolutely incredible. Judith Ivey, who I mean, I knew her from Designing Women back in the 90s, but of course. Um, but the kindness and the patience that she shows for all the other women was just perfection. She just was the one, she was the rock of the entire movie to me.
Mhm.
Um, I did not, for a change, hate Rooney Mara. Um, I don't know why. I have a block when it comes to her. I think because she's so like she always comes off as so like if Zoe Deschanel was super buttoned up, that would be Rooney Mara to me. Um, but she was just to me a revelation in this movie. And Claire Foy kind of she was the heat of the movie
Mhm.
to me.
Yeah, absolutely. She delivers a fiery performance, whereas you've got Jessie Buckley on the other side, uh, kind of arguing the other way a little bit, and Claire Foy's like, "I'm going to kill everyone if we stay here." That dynamic is pretty great with kind of stuck in the middle of that, and then of course these two older women who are much more experienced and have been through this so much longer. Have so much more weight to what they say and what they've been through because they've been gaslighted for so much longer than these women have, and have lacked the agency that these women are developing, and it's jarring for them, but at the same time, they're building their resolve as they go, and it's beautiful to watch.
I kind of felt that the two older characters would not have ever thought of doing this unless if it hadn't been for the younger characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rooney Mara being impregnated by one of her attackers, and Jessie Buckley being abused constantly. And I think that, and I think it was implied that Frances McDormand's character, who has a scar on her face, was scarred because of this,
Mm-hmm.
because of one of these attacks. I kind of got that was implied,
Yeah.
and that maybe her 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 granddaughter who was blind, that I thought it was implied to me anyway that perhaps she was the product of incest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are there again. She's just it's such a well written movie and such a well directed film that they don't underline those points. None of the points are just constantly hammered upon. It's very present in the moment, and these are people who know each other and they don't need to explain their circumstances to each other, and they can just get on to the point of what they're here to do. And that's the sign of a filmmaker who understands how life and a story works. And because so many inexperienced filmmakers these days are constantly stopping to explain, like people who've known each other for 20 years have to introduce themselves again, like, oh, my girlfriend is here. Like, this is not this is not one of those dumb movies. This is a movie where everybody is aware of who they are, and they're not there's no pretense to it. It's just right into this story, and that adds to the truth and power of it.
You're dropped into the middle of this world, and it's up to you to make the leap to catch up,
Yeah,
to where they're coming from and the world they're in.
This sounds fantastic. I mean, been living under a bubble for the last couple weeks. I didn't really know what this was or that it was even coming out. Did I pick the wrong movie? Is it the best one of the week, or is it just a week of good movies?
it's probably the best one of the week. I will get to the other movie that came out this week, but this one, is an Academy Award nominee. It is a Best Picture nominee, and it is a deserving Best Picture nominee. Whereas the other new movie of the week is not a movie that was ever going to be considered for an Oscar, no matter how good it is.
Because it has Mia Goth in it.
Exactly.
I'm never going to get over that.
Yeah.
You're not surprised, though, are you?
Not surprised. Just.
I mean, they're wrong, but I mean, we stopped really paying attention to the Oscars several years ago.
Yeah.
True.
All right, but before we get to that movie, let's go to the Netflix and streaming movies and start with You People.
You People stars Jonah Hill, directed by Kenya Barris, co-starring Eddie Murphy and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. This movie is about a podcaster played by Jonah Hill, who falls in love with a young black woman, Lana London, I think her name is. She is a costume designer. They have great chemistry. They fall in love, but of course, she's Muslim, he's Jewish. Their parents are very, strange, like Julia Louis-Dreyfus and David Duchovny are Jonah Hill's parents, and they're very like fake woke. Like they want desperately to be seen as woke, but they of course just continuously embarrass themselves with incidental racist comments and actions. And then Eddie Murphy and Nia Long on the other side, they are just Eddie Murphy is very militant and is eager to catch Jonah Hill being racist and expose him for being a bad person. And basically, the movie just kind of establishes the romance and then just starts repeating the same two jokes over and over and over again. Jonah Hill is a white guy who's terrible at everything, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just accidentally racist all the time. Eddie Murphy looks like he's being held hostage in this movie, like he did not want to be here and is going to do just the minimum effort that he has to do to get this done, and then he's gone because he is not enjoying himself in any way. He's never funny in the movie. He never looks like he's having a good time, and this is supposed to be a comedy. Then Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just falling all over herself trying to overplay this character and overplay just how awkward and strange that she is. And of course, it's all building up to an unearned happy ending that nobody in this movie deserves. This movie, like I said, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I can't believe that this group of people made this movie.
Well, Sean is basically saying what Black Twitter is saying this week. Wow, Did you see it, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, with Jonah Hill not doing a lot of movies anymore, it's really surprising he did this. Eddie Murphy, I didn't believe. You could tell he didn't believe what his character was doing. He didn't want to be there. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was my mom, like in real life. So I'm not, I'll buy into her all day long. I don't necessarily like watching it, and it made it even more awkward for me. But yeah, you're 100% right. I was really expecting this to be kind of decent, just by the fact that Jonah Hill's in it. Since he's being so selective all of a sudden, and I don't know this is terrible.
It didn't start out that bad. The whole podcast premise at the beginning with him and Sam J, I thought they had a very funny interaction in those two characters. I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting, and let's see where this goes. And then once Eddie Murphy's introduced, again, they just start hammering those same two jokes, scene after scene after scene.
Can we dispense with the trope that is the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character, where every time a white person meets a black person, they have to completely gush about how not racist they are? It would be actually funnier if they were a little racist and they didn't realize it. That's
probably funnier. You know what it is that it's that Jordan Peele ended this joke when he did Get Out. He ended the joke. Exactly. Bradley Whitford saying he would have voted for Obama a third time is the end of this joke. That's the funniest this is going to get. That's the best satire of this character we're going to find.
And if quite honestly, if she had said, hey, you know what? I love black people, but I don't know very many. So if I say something wrong, tell me. If she'd said that up front, this could have been a whole different, better movie.
Well, that's the point, is that nobody in this movie talks like a human being. Like, you're going to say, maybe you say stupid shit. Maybe you say something that you is offensive and you didn't intend it to, but nobody in this movie speaks like an actual human being.
Yep. Except Jonah Hill at the end when he's going off on Eddie Murphy.
I guess, that's not a terrible scene, yeah.
And it's like when the kids are confronting the parents and they're telling them, how they feel, that was the only time I thought that this was really honest. And the podcast part at the beginning was honest. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people like Jonah Hill in this movie, that they love hip hop culture and all that, but they've eventually have to come to realize that they're not black, and that they will never understand what it's like to be black, and that is a premise that I could get behind, but it takes so damn long to get to that point in this movie, and until you get there, it's just hackneyed, retreaded, boring jokes about, oh my god, we're like two different cultures and we're getting together and oops, our parents are terrible. It's just played out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything. Although, like I said, Julie Louis-Dreyfus is my mom, so I do know people who talk like that.
Oh, I know. We have a lady at my day job she's a lot like that, but she doesn't realize it at all.
Right. But yeah, just I don't know if it got away from him or what, but not very good at all. What about Shotgun Wedding, Jeff? I didn't get a chance to see that one.
Nor did I.
I had a mixed feelings about this. First of all, Jennifer Coolidge, I think we've established that she can basically do no wrong in my eyes. And her with a semi-automatic machine gun, yeah, that was one of the high points. It actually wasn't bad. I was taken out of it by the fact that Jennifer Coolidge, who is 11 years older than Josh Duhamel, was playing his mom. I mean, we all know.
So what's the premise?
The premise is that Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel are getting married, and they have decided to do a destination wedding. And Jennifer Lopez's father is very wealthy and invites her ex-boyfriend, played by Lenny Kravitz. So there's a lot of tension there, and oh my God, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, all these pirates come and kidnap everybody at the wedding, except for, of course, J-Lo and Josh Duhamel, because they are off fighting and they've decided not to get married because it was a mistake, and she's commitment phobic. Get the in joke. And so they are off fighting and deciding to end things when they're invaded by pirates who take everybody hostage, put them in a pool for some reason. I don't understand if that's just to get rid of their phones or what. I missed a few minutes, but then it's up to J-Lo and Josh to zip line back and take out the terrorists with grenades and guns. And
do they have like special skills or something? Or
no. No. And I think that's what's supposed to make it funny.
Okay.
And it's not bad. I mean, Lenny Kravitz is, everybody's like, I think he's the bad guy. Well, and then he turns out, of course, he's the bad guy. I mean, that's just, he's super rich and he's got a helicopter, and, he's kind of wasted. Like, I don't know why it was Lenny Kravitz. He's kind of just playing Lenny Kravitz. I would love it if J-Lo would do a divorce movie instead of a wedding movie. That being said, the last 10 minutes of this movie were really good. The chase and the, how do we defeat the bad guys was actually pretty good. And it was funny. I laughed a few times towards the end. I really think that it was draggy in the middle, and I think that's just basically because they didn't have enough action that they could pad it out with. It was more or less, like, I think that Dad's new girlfriend is probably fucking your ex-boyfriend, and well, let's flirt with the whole wedding party's flirting with each other. It was just kind of but the last 10 minutes, the action part where, they're racing away in a speedboat and they're being followed by a helicopter and, everybody's shooting at everybody. That was actually really fun. And you guys don't have to, I know you're not going to watch it. There's no reason to, if you're not watching it for the show. The way they kill Lenny Kravitz's character is so cool. He basically is zip lining off of the back of a boat with Josh Duhamel with one of Jennifer Lopez's hair extensions. He gets caught, and then they launch the parachute at him. He gets tangled up in it, and they cut the rope, and he goes flying back and hits the helicopter and just explodes everywhere. And then the helicopter crashes where his accomplice. So if you want want to see something fun, watch the last 10 minutes of it, but there's no need to watch the rest of it. It's just kind of dumb, but kind of entertaining.
I mean, Jennifer Coolidge in a machine gun, and then Lenny Kravitz in a helicopter being ripped to pieces is entertaining by itself.
Jennifer Coolidge with the shotgun was my Twitter banner photo for about a month before Christmas.
Nice.
The trailer is much better than the overall movie, but the last 10 minutes of the movie kind of makes up for it.
I like Jennifer Lopez. I think I like Jennifer Lopez as an actress. I think Marry Me was actually a really terrific romantic comedy, and I did want to see this, but just didn't have the time.
Oh, sorry for spoiling it for you.
No worries.
I mean, it's.
I wasn't going to go back for it now that it's out. It's not relevant now.
It is worth watching the last 10, 15 minutes of it. Watch the first 5, and then you can skip ahead.
Establish the premise, then watch the ending. Yeah.
Yes.
I should start doing that for the show more often.
That's how Bob's going to watch movies now.
You People is great.
Wow, that speech that Jonah Hill gives at the beginning was just like, wow.
It probably would be a much better movie.
It would be.
All right.
If You People had been kind of a drama where they confront this kind of stuff with their parents, I think that would have been a much better movie.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool is the second film in the career of Brandon Cronenberg, the son of David Cronenberg. It was fourth. Oh well, he's only got 2 big movies that people have heard of: Possessor and this one.
Well, there's Antiviral. Have you seen that?
No, but has anybody heard of that?
Yeah, lots of people in the horror community, Sean, you snob.
2 mainstream theatrical films that Brandon Cronenberg has made. It tells the story of an author named James Foster and his wife who travel to a resort in some kind of country that is not necessarily third world, but not necessarily first world either. They're not supposed to leave the resort. It's surrounded by razor wire. Like, you just don't go anywhere. But they meet this couple who, played by Mia Goth and her husband, and they befriend them and invite them to go on this trip to a beach nearby. That means they're going to go outside the walls of this resort. Once they're out there, they get drunk. Mia Goth starts hitting on Alexander Skarsgård's character, and then once everybody's drunk, they decide to drive home, and they end up killing a guy, killing a local. And from there, the plot really kicks in. This is really a tremendous film. This is far better than Possessor, which I thought was a good, visually good and terrifying kind of movie that didn't quite land its premise. Here, I think what he's going for is something very akin to the kind of the themes that his father did, but something that still resonates as his own. I think what he's going for here is an examination of privilege taken to such a degree that privilege and excess taken to such a degree that these people, essentially Mia Goth and the group of people that she's with and that she brings Alexander Skarsgård into, are so excessive and so beyond, like, exploiting their privilege of who they are and where they are, that they need to take it even further and further just to find that high. It's like being addicted to drugs and you develop a tolerance. They've developed a tolerance to just about every possible excess of drugs, sex, death, all of it, to such an astonishing degree that they continue to have to ramp it up. And Alexander Skarsgård is new to this. And in the end, I came away thinking, like, I was reminded strangely of Martyrs, and how in that film, like, excessive pain and suffering is the path to God. And here it's like excess in privilege is the path to proving that God doesn't exist. There's just no justice in the world.
Yeah, once they're sick of what they're doing, they just go home. I mean, that's literally what happens.
I feel like so hear me out. White Lotus, hell. Or purgatory. White Lotus in purgatory. The fact that they are so jaded as to they just commit crimes to be killed and brought back and watched, their clones be murdered. That tells you how boring their regular lives must be. That they get their kicks by watching themselves or their clones get killed. And is it their clones, or are they the clones? I think the fact that the movie never answers that question, it kind of says, well, is he his clone, or is he? And they bring that up in the movie, and that's it's pretty obvious that that's what they're going for at points. But are they so depraved because they're not technically humans anymore? Have they been replaced and then replaced and then replaced? So that was what I took out of it. And I do not like Alexander Skarsgård in much. And I thought that he was very... I heard that Robert Pattinson was offered this role, and I would have absolutely much rather he had done it. I don't think Alexander Skarsgård is a bad actor. I just think that he's so conventionally attractive that you can't relate to him.
Yeah,
in a lot of
pulls you out of his character sometimes in movies, where it would be better. But you're right; he's perfectly cut. Everything about him is so Ken doll that it can pull you out. On the flip side, I mean, I already knew Mia Goth was good, but she really is like the best thing in this movie, far and away.
Oh yeah,
she can go from attractive to weird looking she can do everything you needed to do, and she does it all in this movie. It was just really fascinating.
It's chilling. She is chilling. Just her capabilities are endless, and she's seductive. She's terrifying. She's funny. She's just everything. She's charismatic. I can't get enough of her, and she's absolutely brilliant. On the Alexander Skarsgård point, I think his blandness is kind of the point. I think him being bland and him being kind of a perfect example of masculinity, as people would stereotypically want it to be, is what is being deconstructed here, is what is being taken apart in him and used as a tool in this film. And I think that's the kind of the purpose of him, is to be somebody who's being, an idyllic, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, muscular guy being broken down and destroyed. And I think that's kind of part of what he's going for here.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's, he's a failed writer, but but he puts on this front that he's not, that he's this perfect person, but he's far from it. And no, I agree 100% with that. But I still get why you could want somebody else in that role. But I don't know.
think that.
Go ahead.
I think with a not necessarily an actor of color, but somebody who's a little less conventional than him, you could see him as more of their plaything. Whereas I never really get the fact that he's not somebody who kind of takes control. I don't get that in his performance. And maybe that's just me, looking at him and being like, yeah, this dude never has to worry about any of this shit. I would have liked it if he had just been a normal guy instead of a writer. You know what I mean? I think that he could have married rich, but I think writers in movies and stories, they don't have any quote unquote responsibilities, and they always have writer's block. And that's kind of a trope that wish we could get away with. I wish he'd just been like, you know what? I don't have to work because my wife's rich, but I like to volunteer and help people, and make him very easy to, quick to help.
Mm-hmm. See, I think I felt that the writer thing, or at least being vaguely well known, was an essential part of it, because his ego is what's going to draw him into what gets him caught here. Is that Mia Goth pretends as if she's recognized him from having read his book, and that flatters him and brings him out to essentially buy into the bait of her and her husband. And I think that part of him is necessary, whether he's a writer or maybe an actor or something that they could do there where he's recognizable. I think that necessity of playing to his ego is part of the story.
For somebody who looks like he does, I think a failed soap opera actor, or an actor who was on a soap or one of those, like Melrose Place or something, where he doesn't have to work anymore, so he doesn't. He just kind of got caught into the acting. I think that would be an interesting thing, because it gives you, he's got that actor in him, so he can act. If his clone has all of his memories, he knows how to act. So then, I just spitballing an idea there that you gave me. So
yeah,
I mean, I thought it worked, and I thought obviously the privilege is key. This movie, the whole point of the movie doesn't exist if he doesn't come from privilege, or at least married into it. And at the same, while it's shocking and a neat movie, and I think the ending's fantastic. I just love how they just go home. To me, that's almost more shocking than anything you see throughout the rest of the movie, because they just go to their everyday life, and it's like Bruce Willis realizing he's dead the whole time.
What?
What
movie is that?
Yeah, I love that final scene. It's fantastic. It's really incredibly well done. And again, it just shows how great Mia Goth is. The way she can just turn it on and off like that is just astonishing. She's so necessary to making that moment work. But really, she's essential to just about anything. She's just so amazing. I can't stop praising her, because she's just so very, very good at this. The visuals and the style are spectacular. He's got a terrific command of his visual style, of his production design, cinematography. He's a great, he's terrific at the way he establishes a scene and ends a scene. Brandon Cronenberg is definitely he's gotten so much better from Possessor to this. He's gotten even better.
What?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, the imagery of the masks is something that he loves to do.
Mm-hmm.
And these masks were fucking incredible.
Disturbing. So disturbing.
Yeah, and it made me not want to look at the screen when boobs were on the screen. Like I was literally covering my eyes at one point, because I don't want to see what comes out of that. What are your thoughts on, all the stories this week, which I know I've been living under a rock, but I did see all this about, the graphic scenes that the cut out of the movie for the theatrical release, but we're going to put it back in when it goes to streaming. That seems like it would keep people from going to the theater. I mean, did you hear about I think they cut I don't know if they cut the scene, but they cut parts of the scenes out that were very graphic. Did you know anything about those?
I wasn't aware of that.
Well, I read something that said that the NC-17 version had him nursing her, but I was like, well, I saw that. So did I see the NC-17? Apparently, I didn't. So I looked into it a little bit, and I guess it went on a little longer. And there are shots in the scene where he's kind of living in the orgy part of it. There are apparently like a lot more penises, which you can't show because you might make Joe Sixpack uncomfortable.
Well, and I think the scene where Mia Goth finds him peeing, I think they actually show him ejaculating at that point too, and that was one of the things I read they cut. Which
I kind of want, because I mean it's really effective as it is. I don't think you need even the shocking stuff, because I mean, this version of it is has enough shocks and has enough, visual presence to take you to those places. I think it's actually better without it. I really don't need any more of the X-rated stuff than what's in the movie, because I think what's there is very effective.
Yeah, it would depend on if it made me more uncomfortable. It'd be one thing. If it was, I mean, not in the Joe Sixpack way. That's stupid. But
oh my God, I saw a dick. Oh, what am I gonna do?
But if some of those images were very uncomfortable to see, and if they would have stayed on the nursing scene longer, that would have been effective, I guess. I don't need to see him ejaculating. That's just porn at that point. But I don't, not knowing that before I see the movie, it seemed kind of a weird thing to say that there was going to be an unedited version coming out later.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it was good.
I guess it's just a couple seconds.
Right.
I guess it has the same runtime as the rated version, but it's just literally like not even full seconds of shots of maybe penetration or something. So
kind of sounds like the director's cut of Eyes Wide Shut in that way, where basically they had to digitally add people to cover up other naked people, like that. Just remove those and you've just got a bunch of naked people.
Yeah, but I thought it was good. I don't know how long it will stick with me. It wasn't confusing, I was able to follow it the whole way through, and what they were going for with the people of privilege was pretty obvious. There wasn't a whole lot to figure out. It was just more shocking, and then it ended, and I kind of moved on. First thing my wife said when the credits started rolling is, "You make me go to the stupidest movies."
Well, you could have gone to my screening. It was literally just me. I was the only person.
Oh, wow.
It was a private screening on Saturday morning.
There was one other person in the theater with us. Everybody else is waiting for the penis movie version.
It didn't do well this weekend. It was a nationwide release, and I'm not sure if it even made the top 10 in terms of box office. Which, of course, people are going to look at that and go, well, see, Mia Goth is not a marketable actress, you see.
They just got to find her. She might not be marketable yet, but she is fantastic.
She's incredible. She's the best actress working today. I
want to see her and Florence Pugh in a movie together, and then I might just die.
And if Ari Aster directed it.
Oh my God. That's too beautiful for this world.
We do not deserve that. Anything else on Infinity Pool before we move on to our classic?
Like I said, I think I loved it. I think I don't necessarily call it the best movie I've seen so far this year. I think I've seen at least one better movie this year, but I thought it was really well made. I think Brandon Cronenberg is definitely on the right track to establish himself outside of his father's name, and I think Mia Goth is just incredible. But I really enjoyed just the examination of excess and privilege. I thought it was very well, deconstructed and examined, and the idea of just going so far over the top that you can't find, that you continue to have to find new forms of depravity, and that even still seem almost out of reach. I thought that was a great idea.
I couldn't agree more. All right, let's move on to Rabid.
Rabid from 1977 is from David Cronenberg, one of his earliest features, and tells the story of a woman who is in a motorcycle accident with her boyfriend. They end up getting taken to a plastic surgery clinic to heal, and this plastic surgeon ends up using an experimental surgery to try and Save the Woman. Is it Marilyn Chambers who's playing that character?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He ends up somehow creating a monster that lives under her arm that turns people into zombies, which is just a phenomenal premise for a movie. I mean, just if you could think of something more insane, please let me know. I mean, that's a completely insane idea, but it works. People, try and touch her, and her arm like bites them, and they become zombies, and she kills a lot of people that way. The zombie plague spreads throughout Toronto, and yeah, it gets crazy. I really, again, it's David Cronenberg, so the body horror is pretty spectacular and very weird, and yet it's also kind of a traditional zombie movie in some ways, but it's a Cronenberg zombie movie. So, what do you think, Jeff?
This is my least favorite of David Cronenberg's movies. I love The Brood. I thought that he had gotten some really good performances out of some good actors. For me, this was kind of the, if we put Marilyn Chambers in it, then maybe we'll get a good audience. But she's not an actress, or she was not an actress.
Yeah, she's a porn star, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and good for her to be able to kind of quote unquote make the jump, but she was not convincing in it, and like some of the dubbing that they did over her voice the budget really shows in this one. The low budget really shows in this one, and I love some of his movies, but this is just not one of them for me. I literally had to watch it twice, because at one point I was like, oh shit, it's over. Oh, okay. I missed the last 20 minutes of it. So I had to rewatch that part twice, and I kept getting bored. And what I found since I started on this show is that I get bored when I'm taken out of the movie. And that's when I start to work on a drawing, or, kind of dick around my apartment or whatever. And I just thought that everybody looked like a good character. You know what I mean? Like they were real ordinary people, and I tend to like that. But the performances were kind of terrible.
Bob, what'd you think?
I kind of agree with Jeff. Maybe not quite as far, but for the last couple of years, I've been very tired watching movies, and sometimes it takes a movie that kind of pulls me out of it and kind of gets me committed to it. And this I had a hard time with, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was kind of a traditional zombie movie. Cronenberg one, nonetheless, but still fairly traditional. And I found myself bored a lot and zoning out and starting to look at other things and grab my phone, and so I was a little bummed about that. It definitely is my least favorite of some of the early Cronenberg stuff. Maybe some of the late 90s stuff, early 2000s. This might be better than I couldn't really tell you. But I didn't love it like I was hoping to, like I have a lot of his other movies.
It's a step back from Shivers. Shivers, I think, is like one of the all-time underrated horror classic. That movie is incredible. This movie, I think Cronenberg wanted to make an armpit monster, and that's where his interest lies. And then he's like, "Oh, I got to make the rest of the movie now."
That makes sense, because the other movies aren't traditional even a little bit. There's just something weird going on at all, and you just kind of intrigued, and it starts to pull me in. But I think the traditional zombie part of it really bored me. Maybe it was the actress too, but I just really felt like I've seen stuff like this before. It was Cronenberg.
Yeah, I think with his with some of his other movies, if he can hire Shivers excluded and The Brood excluded because those were still low budget movies. The Brood, I think, is his most effective of the earlier ones, and a lot of that is based on the performances. Samantha Eggar, she's like she's like a a lower budget Joan Collins. She she eats it up, and Art Hindle, he always kind of plays that good guy, except in Body Snatchers, but you believed them because of their performances. Whereas Marilyn Chambers, and I, quite honestly, the reason that I lost the last 20 minutes of the movie the first time is because I'm like, did she ever act in like anything else mainstream? And I went down the Marilyn Chambers rabbit hole on IMDb and Wikipedia, and then I was like, oh shit, it's over.
Yeah.
Did she?
Nothing like.
I think one of her, like, the Happy Hooker series actually opened in theaters, which is weird because those are basically just straight up pornography, but they actually went out to like a wide release. Other than that, I don't think so.
Huh. You learn something new every day.
That there's a movie called The Happy Hooker.
Or that it went to theaters. Both. I learned two things.
It's The Happy Hooker Goes to Washington.
Yes. So back when I was a kid, and a family member who shall remain nameless used to have a lot of Penthouse magazines. Xavier Hollander wrote a column called The Happy Hooker, and she was the Happy Hooker. And then they made movies out of the column in her books, and there's Marilyn Chambers.
Was it my dad?
No, it was not your dad.
All right. Let's move on to 1993. And Sean's doing another podcast on our stream about 1993. You did Children of the Corn 2 this week?
Yeah, Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice, which thank you, Jeff. You helped us make this decision. We had two different movies to choose from, this and a movie called Body Heat. No, not Body Heat. What was it called? I can't remember what it's called. Ron Silver was in it. It doesn't matter.
Matinee, Sniper, Blindside, all of them came out this week.
Blindside, that's the one.
Blindside.
Right.
It was down to those two, and we finally went with Children of the Corn because of Jeff's recommendation, and I'm so glad that we did, because this is one of the greatest So Bad It's Good movies I've seen in a very long time. I can't believe this movie is not talked about more as one of the great So Bad It's Good movies, because there are so many scenes in this movie that just are complete and utter nonsense. The opening of this film, Bob, I'm pretty sure the person who wrote the first 10 minutes had never heard of the Children of the Corn before. So they just assumed that Corn was the slasher killer. So they have Corn stalks come to life and kill two people. Like a corn stalk slashes a guy's throat, and another one flings itself through the windshield to stab a guy. It's great. It's so hilarious. I could not believe it. Then the rest of the movie kind of goes back to the actual children. It's so inept, though. Like, these kids are getting on a bus. You think they're in Gatlin, but then they immediately get off the bus and they're in the same town. But it's the new town that they're supposed to be living in now, which, of course, the demon, the he who walks behind the rose, has followed them to the new town and is possessed one of the kids, and he's going to be the big bad kid. But, of course, is there a demon, or is it bad corn? Because we've discovered that there is a corn virus that is in the air and making people delusional. But that's not true, because that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Then there's a Native American character who's introduced and just exists as casual racism throughout the rest of the movie, to the point where I got to tell you about this. He and the main character are nearly killed by a combine after they're taken hostage by the sheriff, who's trying to cover up the bad corn. And he, the sheriff, frames Corn for their murder.
Oh my God.
But then, of course, the Native American character exists solely to sacrifice himself to save white people, because that's what you do with casually racist movies in the early 90s. You have a minority character who sacrifices himself to save white people. So the Native American guy dies by arrow, of course. And then this man who has been established as a college professor, he is a college professor who has been helping out this journalist main character. He dies, the Native American character dies. So the journalist and the remaining white people decide to give him a Viking funeral. They pile him on top of corn and light him on fire. And I just kept thinking, he's a college professor. He probably has a family, you fuckers. Like, he's probably got family and friends. You're burning his fucking corpse. What the hell?
Oh.
It's so crazy. I love this movie so much. Wheelchair Grandma. That Wheelchair Grandma isn't one of the greatest memes of all time. Truly, it blows my mind. There's a scene where Micah, the main bad kid, he's got a RC car, and he uses his demon magic to use the remote control in his RC car to take over a wheelchair of an old woman and rolls her out in the street. She gets hit by a truck and goes flying through a plate glass window. It's hilarious. The dummy in that wheelchair is so bad. It's beautiful, man. I love this movie.
I know
I've seen this.
Yeah.
Because Christy Clark is in it.
Yeah.
Hear me out. She was on Days of Our Lives, and she was
I've
the little
seen
sister.
this too. Because I remember watching Days of Our Lives and then being up late at night with like, holy shit, that's the girl from Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. It's Carrie Brady. And she was also the sister in Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I saw this, and I saw this because she was in it, I remember. And I liked her, and I'm looking at it on IMDb, and I can see her, but I'm like, I don't remember
anything
else.
She's barely in the movie.
Right.
She is in one of these actually the single sweatiest sex scene I've ever seen in a movie. It's so gross. These two people look like they've crawled out of a river and are now in a bed at a bed and breakfast having sex. It is so disgusting just how sweaty they are. And considering that we've seen Body of Evidence this year, that there could be a sweatier sex scene is shocking, but it's there.
Does she pour candle wax on him?
No, thankfully. I think it wouldn't matter. They're so wet, they just put out all the candles.
Wow.
Yeah. I wrote 1,600 words about this movie.
Jesus Christ.
On top of a 1-hour podcast about it because I love it so much.
What's funny, though, is it's called The Final Sacrifice, and there are 10 more of them.
Yeah.
This was made by a guy who the producer, he basically just bought a bunch of properties that were available and started making sequels. So this movie was made back to back with Leprechaun and Hellraiser 3, just all in a row at the same location.
And Avenging Angel, don't forget that.
Avenging Angel. Oh my God. It's so hilarious. It's right there in that bad movie sweet spot where it's just you can sense that these people didn't know what they were doing. The director is completely inept. He was the son of the head of Dimension Pictures, who were the distributors of this. So that's how he got the job. And it's so poignant. He's just so poignantly bad where you almost feel bad for laughing at him, but you can't help but laugh at just how bad he is at directing a movie.
Yeah, I just can't. My new thing is I love watching horror movies, and I will watch the same fucking shit over and over again. But if I remember not liking a movie, I'm not going to go back to see if I still liked it. Mm-hmm. There's not enough time.
All right. Next week we got 80 for Brady, Knock at the Cabin. Anything else coming out?
I'm watching a movie called The Civil Dead, which is supposed to come out nationwide. Whether it does or not, I don't know until next week, I guess. And the movie that I mentioned earlier, Oh no, no, that one's not coming out yet. That's all I have.
All right. The classic. Did I make a decision yet? I don't remember.
No, you haven't, or at least you haven't told us yet.
Let's do. Semi-tough looks pretty bad, so let's do that.
At least it's on Freevee.
I mean, Michael Ritchie is an interesting director. We did The Candidate on this show, and in the future, I do want to do Downhill Racer. He's done a lot of different, very, very different, very distinctive films. So,
I mean,
when you suggested this, oh, go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
When you suggested this, I looked it up, and seems like it has one thing at least going for it for me, that it has a love interest who is within 10 years of the male stars. So that's one thing going for it.
That is a rarity.
19.
Yeah.
I just thought Chris Christopherson and Burt Reynolds was... I mean, obviously Burt Reynolds is the longest yard, but it just looked silly. Maybe it's not. It's not that long. And then 1993, we got Homeward Bound, The Cemetery Club, Loaded Weapon 1, Summersby, and The Vanishing. Do you know what you're doing for the podcast, Sean?
We were debating between Summersby and Loaded Weapon. We've not decided yet. We're going to decide at the last minute. Probably leaning towards Loaded Weapon, just to see if it's problematic, or if it's like maybe a hidden gem. Nobody talks about Loaded Weapon anymore, and I'm wondering if it's because it's just probably desperately out of date and offensive. But we'll maybe.
I think it's just because it's not as good as Hot Shots.
Perhaps.
Is Summersby the Jodie Foster plays a straight
Jodie
woman?
Foster, Richard Gere movie?
Oh, okay.
I actually on the show on the new show that'll be going up this week, I guessed the premise of this movie just almost by accident. Just the vaguest memory I had. I just pulled it up like Richard Gere was in the Civil War and he was thought to be dead, and then he came back, and then we looked it up, and I was right.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. We also have on Patreon coming out, Jeff and Sean did a Friday the 13th commentary track that we thought we lost, but we found, so it'll be up soon on our Patreon.
Even if we lost it, I'm not averse to going back and doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
Every Friday the 13th, we'll do a new one.
We're going to do every Friday the 13th movie, Jeff.
I think, you know what? I'm fine with that.
Nice.
And if we do Friday the 13th part 2, I'm going to see if I'm kind of acquaintances with a couple of the cast members from there. So see if I can get some thoughts.
Nice.
That'll be fun. All right. Quickly before we go to bed, Duck Soup or Death Becomes Her?
Duck Soup.
Death Becomes Her.
It's Duck Soup for me. Milk, Batman and Robin.
Milk.
Agreed. Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child, Being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5, because I know what Bob's going to pick.
Being John
My
Malkovich.
pick won't matter.
Halloween H2O, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Once we
H2O.
finish Friday the 13th, Jeff, we'll do Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
Let's see. Anchorman for me.
You said H2O, Jeff?
Yeah. Duh.
Anchorman for me.
Does a pimp carry a razor?
The Muppets, Revenge of the Nerds.
The Muppets.
Yeah, sure.
Agreed.
I don't particularly care about either one of them.
Old Boy, Hollow Man.
Old Boy over Kevin Bacon's dick.
Do you see it in Hollow Man?
Yeah. Very briefly.
Oh, I'm going to go Hollow Man.
That was during the period where he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just showing my dick and everything.
I just thought he did it one time. I didn't realize he did it a lot.
Oh, no. It's out there.
I just remember Wild Things. Beverly Hills Cop 3, Exit Through the Gift Shop.
Exit Through the Gift Shop.
Such an amazing movie.
Yeah.
John Carter, The Bank Job.
The Bank Job.
John Carter.
I have not seen either one of them. So it is a coin flip. And
we can switch them.
No, we're fine. I don't care about either one of them. The bank job won the coin flip. Bad Boys, Conan the Destroyer.
That's tough.
1983 Bad
That's
Boys.
Bad Boys. With,
I've never seen I've never seen the 1983 Bad Boys.
That's the one with Sean Penn and Esai Morales, isn't it?
I don't know.
Very well could be, but I have no idea.
I would pick that one.
All right, you pick that one. Each shows for us. Bandits, Forrest Gump.
Bandits.
Everybody hates us right now. Blast.
We're the only podcast that hates Forrest Gump. And Jeff, thank you for carrying on the tradition.
Sally Field is the only part of the movie I like, and she's not even that great in it.
Yeah. Blast of Silence, Flight Plan.
Never heard of Blast of Silence. Sounds cool though. Nice title.
Hot Shots, Flight Plan.
Hot Shots.
Flight Plan. Jodie Foster for the win.
Hot Shots for me. Joe Dirt, Superman.
Superman. Happy 93rd birthday, Gene Hackman.
Wow, he's that old. Run, Lola, Run, The Killing Fields.
Run, Lola, Run.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Killing Fields, but I did like Run, Lola, Run.
Agreed. Judge Dredd, The Others.
The Others.
Yeah. Silly, I'm your daughter.
Rocky Balboa, Ghost Ship.
I'm going to pick Ghost Ship because it has the best fucking opening scene of any horror movie.
Yeah,
I don't care about Rocky.
I'm with you on that. I just Rocky Balboa just didn't do anything for me.
Go back and read your review.
Oh yeah, did I like it or not?
You did like it.
I don't remember now. Oh, I did? Oh, I can't even remember.
We voted. I agree.
I get it mixed up. I get it mixed up with that and the other Rocky movie that he did either before or after that. I get those two mixed up.
Gotcha. The Ghost Ship though does have an awesome beginning. The Milky Way, Twilight Saga, New Moon.
Never heard of the Milky Way.
Resident Evil, New Moon.
Good God!
Yikes.
I mean, that's the. I mean, wow.
Fishing
with Gandhi.
Is that how we end the show? All right.
Classic throwback.
I'll talk to you guys hopefully next week.
Sounds good.
See you later.
See ya.